Welcome to the Thresholds of Reality, the podcast where we explore unexplained and mysterious events, phenomena, and legends. Today we are talking to UFO researcher and comrade in arms, apparently, Russ Kellett. Strap in as we explore the edges of the unknown. Russ, thanks so much for joining us today, all the way from. Are you in the UK right now?
That's right, Sam. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. We're over here in Arizona, in the Southwest United States, somewhat of a hotspot of UFO activity, but nowhere near as much as you personally are, right?
Well, yeah, it's been like that. It's slowed down a little over the past past 4 years, but yeah, you're right in saying that a lifetime, sort of like full of experiences, sightings, and encounters, abductions. A lot of the things that I'd seen and witnessed, I'd actually been out and filmed a lot of the things, like, for instance, before the term flying man was ever, the phrase was coined, I was filming something like a flying man in 2000 in the UK, but it was actually a flying triangle, and both me and my friend saw it. It's on YouTube. If you go on my YouTube channel, UFO Paranormal TV, you can see it. Flying dolphin. At first, I thought it was a balloon. I'm thinking that's got to be a balloon. But to be quite honest, there's no tether. I had the footage looked at, and you can't see a tether. Anybody holding, sort of like a line. Then you can see me getting zapped by like a UFO, and it shoots down 6 or 7 balls of light. If you slow it down, in that 1 second, you see at least, I think it's 6 or 7 balls of light come down and hit me. You can hear me say to my friend at the side of me, who was disabled, and I was showing him, with the camera, look, that's, the UFO, what I'm following. Can you see it? Yeah. Brings it back and starts filming, and then looks at it again when I got in the house. So you can see me getting zapped by this UFO alien craft. Then there's I filmed 2 flying triangles come out of the bay in front of me where I live over here in Filey in North Yorkshire. For 20 minutes, I'm filming 2 flying triangles in the bay. At the side of the road, there's a walkway and the bay, and they're no more than, say, 200 feet away from the side of the wall, from the sidewalk, and they both take off and fly down to a different part of I think it was down in Bridlington, so the next town down. There's all sorts. There's all sorts of videos what I videoed, and a friend of mine, we used to go out and see at a competition who can get the best footage. It's all there. What can't speak, can't lie. It's there. How many other people that claim to have been abducted actually have that level, like a footage?
Right.
When we were making a TV film for Bravo, and this is some years ago now. And at the end, when they were talking to us, I'm talking, and these lights started dancing between me and my friend that was taking part in the show. So it's all there. I mean, to be honest, because of me ill health, I don't go out too much and film. I'd be better off doing one of these where like you've got video, like doorbell cameras, and have it set up. A lazy ufologist way, I suppose. But you know, I'm sort of like getting to that stage now when I'm thinking to myself, you know, let somebody else go look for things, you know.
So let me ask you, are any of you've been abducted? I think the number is what, 60 times? Is that right?
Around about 60 times, yeah.
Um, are you like turning yourself into like alien bait to get that many abductions? Like, are you doing it on purpose? Do you dress up, you know, like somebody might do with
Well,
Chris
dress up.
Hansen, right? To
You
catch a
might, I
predator.
don't dress up. What kind of dressing up are you talking about, boy?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what they're into, you know? So I'm trying to figure out. It
Well,
seems like you've got it down to a science.
this is how we dress. Their soldiers dress very similar. Life suits. That's what's keeping us alive. At the back, there's that's a backpack, and sonic guns. They're sound guns, so they work very similar. They look a bit like a Colt carbine, I suppose, in a way. Anyway, so the thing is, before I get to that stage, it's how did we get to that stage?
Yeah, let's start.
You know what I'm saying? It's like so. I'd been as a youngster. I'd been introduced to this subject by my dad. He'd come in from work one morning. He'd been on a late night shift, and he was talking on his break with his brothers and workmates, because I think he had about 3 brothers all work together at the same, you know, sort of like works, making carpets. And as he's talking to his friend, he can hear some shouting going on, and he's looking, you know, sort of like what's going on. Oh, look. So look at what? So by the time he'd come from behind his friend and his friend had turned round, oh, you've missed it, Jim. And he said, well, what have I missed? And he says, so they're all shouting, it was a UFO. And one of the other lads was saying, it was a cigar-shaped object. And somebody said it was, one called it a cigar shape, and somebody else, what did they call it now? You know, sort of like, it was like a long, elongated, you know, sort of like a tube and what have you. So they were saying all very much the same, you know, description. So anyway, he'd missed it, and he was a bit miffed because, you know, sort of like him and his mate talking, they missed the whole shebang. And what happened was that this had made the local papers, and it had been known as the Fatley torpedo. So, as some are calling it a cigar, some are calling it a torpedo, and elongated shape and what have you. So it had made the news. Now, I were only young. I think I was about 4 years old or so, you know, sort of like so. But my dad started getting like books on UFOs and Bermuda Triangle and stuff. It really, you know. So I hadn't seen anything up until later on when I become an investigator into this subject. And one evening, he was out with my mum and his sister, and they were going to see his sister. And then from there, they were going to go to a club. And they came across something falling out of the sky. And he thought it was an helicopter at first. Now, what happened was, you know, sort of like there's my auntie saying, oh, you know, like, let's, you know, get to our kid's house and forget that. And my mum said it looked like what she could only describe as like a loaf of bread. And my dad said, yeah, it did look like that, you know. So they actually filled report forms in. They've both passed away now, but, you know, they filled the reports in. But funnily enough, when my dad was in the army, I didn't even know my dad were in the army, right? He were in Tank Regiment, 8th Royal. And he were in secret atom bomb tests. None of this what you've seen on television in America and in UK, you know. This is like more secret than what you've seen on television. I've got pictures of him in his uniform and an atom bomb going off. Shouldn't have happened where it was because it were in Germany, right? Yeah, it was a low yield atom bomb, and I think this was 50. I think it was either 56 or 57. Now I found out about this by my dad talking to a comrade. They had a meeting. They hadn't seen him for years, and they were getting old, and they wanted to. And he's saying to his friend, "Don't tell him anything. He researches UFOs and stuff. He's in the paper and on television. Don't tell him anything about this." Too late. Me and my sister had already heard him.
Cat's out of the bag.
Cat's out of the bag.
You know, sort of like, and I'm not joking either. I found out quite a lot. Anyway, so people have been saying, is this a link? Is this why they're taking you? Because of your dad? You know, sort of like because he was close. He turned around and said his knees turned to jelly. He never, ever felt right again after that happened. He was an athlete, not like me, slim chap, and could run and what have you, you know, sort of like, and he had to run because I think he nicked an American Jeep when he were over there and went through a cafe sort of like window. Then, apparently, he was racing a tank with his friend and he nudged his mate over and his mate went through a farm building. All this I'm listening to thinking, what? You know, so anyway, so, you know, could this be why they're picking on me because of what he's done? You know, sort of like, are they interested in him? And because obviously I'm, you know, like father, like son, is it a case of, is that why they picked on me? And I mean picked on because I'm making a bit light of this, but it's been hell for all these years. It's either you get on with it and live, or you sort of like crawl away and die. I ain't going to crawl away and die for anybody. You know? So, what happened was, the first time, I'm out on my motorbike. It was a trail bike, a TSAR, and I'd had it really lucky. I'd had it bought by my mum and dad for my birthday stroke Christmas, and I'd got a job, and the proviso was, we get you this motorbike, you're going to work, you know, we're only 16, remember, you're going to work, you know, sort of like, I'm not keen on you getting a motorbike. I know what you like. But you get in, you go to work, you don't miss work, and you get in at a right hour. I don't mind getting you the motorbike. And I think there's a picture in my book somewhere. There's a picture in this book. It's called E.T. Rider, and it's got a picture of me in on my motorbike. Anyway, so what happens is, I'd been out and, you know, sort of like after tea, and I had some friends and what have you, but they didn't have motorbikes. So, you know, sort of like I'd go to this place where we used to go trail bike riding called the Flappit. And what happened was, on my way home, it's near this place called Druid's Altar, which I used to go up. There's an altar stone. And I used to go sit and meditate up there. I used to do a bit of training and what have you. And I used to sit on there and, like I say, meditate. Maybe not the best place to go sit on an altar stone. You know what I mean? Sort of like, you know, sacrificial sort of like stone for. Maybe not a good idea. Never thought of it until my friend told us later. I'd be careful about that. So down that lane from Druid's Altar is Altar Lane, right? Yeah. I'm coming up, which joins to Altar Lane round this corner, round this bend. And I come across this like in the book there, that's what I get. It's a bit more rounder than this. It was, you know, sort of like nothing more than a tunnel. Something in myself, I'm slowing down thinking, that one here the day before. You know, sort of like, and I'm thinking, my logic saying, how can that have been built? You know, like in days, you know, like a tunnel. You know, next thing I knew, I'm now like this in one of these, in a chair like this, sort of like a dentist chair. And I'm looking and it's all subdued. And I'm looking and I'm thinking to myself, like here, like that, what's going on? And then I noticed something up here. Yeah. And sort of like I looked up, I'm thinking, oh. And there is what I can only describe. Well, I won't describe it. I will normally would describe it, but as like something like 15 foot in like in one of those suits, dark blue. Some had like aprons, like bibs, white, and they looked bald and like Nosferatu. And believe me, you know what I mean. So my stomach, I was frightened. I'm not joking. So I was pushed back and told to go back. And what happened was the put something in back of my neck. I could see something going on, and I would, sort of like. Then I would push back, and I could felt this sort of like pain. So I'm presuming it were a needle. Didn't see a needle, but I'm presuming I must have been injected in something at back of me head, back, my neck sort of thing. So I'm petrified now. My mouth is opened, and they put this thing in my mouth, and I'm sort of like, and something was said like, like don't panic. Not don't panic. No, like, don't panic. I'm thinking, yeah. Now on the end of this tube is like an helmet, and what happens next is that this like chair what I'm in is very flexible, and it's like bendy. I can't explain, and it is raised up. And when I look, I'm in sort of like this arena now, and there's people at either side of me in the same position. There's people like below them and I'm thinking, and I was told, look forward, so I looked forward, and I could see this arena. There's like this screen, and now there's information going across this helmet, what they put on, and it's like basic battle skills, and all this information. Remember, I'm not military. I wasn't in regular army. I wasn't even in the territorial army. I had quite a few friends, and I'd done a lot of training, and I used to go shooting at a rifle club, sort of like and pistol club. So I had been trained. I opened one of the first, what you would call paintball sites in the UK, but I hadn't had that military training. So all this is going on. It's telling us like about as weapons, how to handle a weapon, sort of like all the protocol, and it's the same there as it is here, with weapons. There's things you do. There's, if you're into, sort of like weapons, you'll know yourself. If you're not, you won't. So anyway, all that's been going on, and now I'm back on my motorbike, and I'm at stall speed now, and I'm almost falling off, and sort of like I'm pulling my throttle back to get it going, faster, and goes round near this wall, and we're very, very close to going over this wall, and carries on, and I'm thinking to myself, do I look back? You know what I mean? And I'm thinking, don't look back. But I just had to turn around and look back, So what happens is I carried on the journey home, and there were one or two things which, sort of like did start ringing a bell, which was, it was a lot darker than it should have been. To say that I'd been out sort of like after tea, and I was supposed to get in at a reasonable hour, about 10 or 11 o'clock at the latest. You know what I'm saying? because
Right.
remember, I'm only 16. So now I comes in the little backyard and what have you, and I'm thinking that light's on in the house, and I'm thinking, it looks a bit later than it should be. Never thought, just got off my bike, put it on the stand and what have you, ignition off and what have you. Go into the door and door's locked, and I'm thinking, that's strange. Doors always open. We're like everybody else. We had nothing. We didn't lock his doors because nobody nicked from you, because if you'd have no to nick, you know what I mean. But apart from just leave me bike alone, you know what I mean. So the next thing, the door's open, and it's my mum there. Oh dear! And she, that face what mums have, when you haven't done something what you should have done, or you've done something wrong. And it were like, what time do you call this? Getting, sort of like, so I'm getting through the door at the same time as I'm getting sort of like round the back of the head. And where have you been? And I just looked at her, where have you been? What time do you think it is? I said, well, I don't know. You don't know the time? And you got to watch? I said, well, no, I haven't got to watch. And she says, you're at work well, she says, in the morning. She said, what am I talking about in the morning? She said, it's 2 o'clock. She says, you'll be at work. She says, like, you're not going to have much time for sleep. And she said, neither are we. Ooh, just wait until I tell your dad. Sort of like, my dad won't bothered. Anyway.
So how old were you when that happened again?
16.
16, yeah.
Yeah. I've left school on the Friday. I sort of like, and I'd started work after the holiday sort of thing, and I were more or less started work straight away, at 16. So the proviso was, you're getting at a right time, a reasonable hour, and so this wasn't exactly a reasonable hour, was it? You know what I mean? So I thought I'd better not tell her. She asked me, where have you been? What have you been doing? And I thought, I don't think I'll tell you exactly where I've been and what I've been doing, because I'll get the dog lead. She'll think I'm being funny. Did you get no, you probably got the belt, the strap if you were misbehaving, no?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes
so
it is
I got it more than enough, but so I thought, I'm going to get, if I tell her this, sort of like this, you're making this up, story about this, what's happened, we're either I'm going to get the strap or we're going to get the dog lead. Either way, I wasn't looking forward to it, you know what I mean? So
right.
That was like the first time I had this encounter with these, 15-foot humanoid, bald, creatures, a bit like Nosferatu, a little bit like that. There's another one. There's one that looks a bit more human, although I'm saying that, my friend said, your idea of human, Russ, isn't my idea of human,
It is closer, yeah. So when you said you were riding your motorcycle and they all of a sudden you were in the ship, I mean, you didn't feel being lifted, you didn't feel, and then once you were in that ship, what was your surroundings like as they were putting that needle in? You said you were in a real flexible type chair. Was it like metal? Was everything like
it was like
aluminum looking? Or
well, first of all, I'm not saying it was a ship, right? Yeah, this, sort of like was in down the tunnel, ended up in a room, right? Yeah. Now this room was like subdued, very, very dark. This is why, at the first I'm looking down around here, and I can't see anybody. And it's only when there's movement up here and I looked up, that's when I'm thinking, sort of like, holy, sort of like when I seen them, it's like, the chair, it was like it was a bit like this, like a dentist chair, and it was very flexible, you know, sort of like it was like you sunk into it. You know, it wasn't hard. It wasn't like, you know, I can't really. It wasn't like metal. It was just like the shape of a chair, but higher up at the back, you know, but it were really, really flexible.
Mm.
They were like on wires. They were like wires as well, you know.
So like molded to your body.
Say again, sorry.
I said so like molded to your body.
More or less, yeah. More or less. Very flexible. That's the best actual description, you know, like anybody's ever said. But it was molded to your body. It was very comfy, and it was like it bent it and it went up, and it were like on wires. Now, like I say, you know, this was like in a massive. I'm talking about massive, like arena. It felt like this room was part of this arena. You know,
so like it was almost like you were in an offshoot room of the arena, and you could see out.
Yeah,
like
yeah, looking across. Remember, I had an helmet on as well,
yeah.
like with this visor, and all this information's coming across here, and it's telling us. And there's images, over on this. Oh, there's a name for it now. I can never get the damn hologram. It was like an hologram in the middle of this arena. Right.
So almost like Gladiator, like you were chosen to go out for battle, to fight for a crowd or something.
Well, no, because we wasn't in there. This was like looking across for some reason, right? So when all that finished. But I know what you're saying. It was a separate sort of like room, but next door, looking at this.
Okay.
See what I mean? But there was all sorts of images shown. Like I said, there was and techniques and different aliens, and it'd say enemy, right? Yeah, and it'd give it an image of the enemy. And there's, you know, I thought I had a few enemies, but a few more than what I've got. You know, and there's different types of alien races, and some of the alien races are different colors, like the dragons, and they're mostly like half dragon, half human, and they're massive as well. And they've got allies, so it's an enemy, and it's say the color of the alien race, these Dragos and what have you, and then it'd say they're allies, and then it'll show you a description of the allies, and different color, different like dragons had different allies.
So like you were being briefed.
Oh yeah.
Like you were being. Yeah, I get it.
It was almost like a like a briefing, and it was sort of like battle skills before you actually go out on a exercise or on a mission.
They're letting you know who your target was and how to address it and what to do for. I get that's
and it also told us sort of like that with the actual the Dragos, they had to be on full power, and these are sound weapons. Later on we had laser cannons later on, and later on we didn't have helmets either. Right, yeah. At the beginning we did, so obviously it looks like technology changed. So basically what happens next is I'd met some new friends at work, and I'd got a scooter now, sort of like, and some of my friends are saying, "Oh, Russ, you've got a scooter." Oh no, you know what I mean? Sort of like, so a bit of this going on, but I was all right. He was a scooter, sort of like.
What's wrong with the scooter?
Pardon?
What's wrong with the scooter?
Well, yeah, exactly. But you tell your friends that are 16, 17, and 18 have been watching, like a film, but were out at the time about mods and rockers. So now I'm getting, like, ooh, you know. So anyway, so I'm on my scooter now, right? And I had this target on my back. And when I told my friend about what happened, he said, I'd take that target off of your back if I were you. He said, because he says, it looks like you've been targeted.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, what happened? I said, you know, I'd been targeted before, hadn't I? You know, when I had the motorbike. So it ain't going to change, you know. So what happens is I'm now on a scooter and I'm more or less going around the same area. And, you know, sort of like I had other things on my mind at the time. You know, I've been to meet this this girl, you know what I mean? And so I like, obviously, different. I'm thinking about going that way back home, you know? So I'm thinking to myself, I better get in at the right time because I'm still sort of like young. I think about 17 now. So it's still the same rules. I'm working, you know, getting at a reasonable hour. And sort of like, so I'm going down the road and I'm thinking to myself, not again, you know? And I wasn't going that fast on my scooter. So the first one anyway, I wasn't going that fast. And the next thing, I am back in the room again. Same scenario, you know, sort of like no escaping because my scooter couldn't go that fast to get away. You know, man, June, me trail bike couldn't rail if I think about it, you know. So
is there like a transition moment where you're going from your normal environs to this other room, this other space, or is it, you know, is it like a ramp or something? You're just like driving onto the back of like or into some new space. Like, is there a transition period? Do you get knocked out? Like, how do you end up?
No,
one side to the other.
I'm trying to stop myself and I'm looking around thinking if I slow down, because remember it's a road. So I'm looking, you know, sort of like thinking, you know, is anybody behind me sort of like seeing this? And I don't want to be knocked off me scooter now, you know what I mean? So I'm sort of like looking around and then I look back again. The next thing, I'm in the room. There's no ramp or anything. The next thing, I'm just physically back in this room and I'm back in this chair and I'm thinking to myself, well, I know what's coming now. You know what I mean? I think
So
I've
it's
got
instantaneous.
Yeah. You know, sort of like, don't think by any means that I'm wanting this. You know what I mean? Because I'm scared stiff. You know, I'm scared stiff. So these things, and I knew to look up, and I'm thinking, you know, and this time I've got a bit of an attitude because my mates are sort of like have got a bit of an attitude. So I'm saying, you know, sort of like something on the line of, well, monsters. I'm thinking to myself, you know, like monsters. They know what I'm thinking. I'm thinking monsters. You know what I mean? Sort of thing. I think they knew what I meant. You know what I'm saying? And there's a reason for that, because the thing is, they're telepathic. So I'm sort of like, you know, not again. You know, sort of like I'm not happy about this, and sort of like in my neck, and sort of like, you know, tube comes down again, which I am absolutely petrified. And that's why I do not like going to the dentist. Yeah. You know, and, you know, when I was a kid, I was always the same about this, you know, anybody going anywhere near my mouth. You know what I mean? Sort of like big no-no. Helmet goes back on. So I'm sat back again, and it's more information, different types of aliens, you know, and these weapons and what to do. And like I say, the next thing again, I'm back on my scooter this time. And with scooters, you're sort of like half on, half off anyway. So it doesn't matter if you know what I mean, if you're going slow. So you can put your foot down. And it was the same thing though. Stall speed, you know, sort of like, and I'm going up the road, and you know, it's a lot harder to get up this road now on my scooter than it was my trail bike. But I'm back on my scooter and I'm looking behind us again, you know, thinking to myself, you know, and yet again, it's a case of when I got home, you know, sort of like, don't say not again. You know, not again. Don't say you're late, you know, sort of like, you know. So what happens is I'm talking to a friend, and I've been doing a bit of training. I used to do a lot of training, like I said, and I used to go over to this Druid's altar, and I used to sit with this, it's like glasses and these headphones, and it was meditating, and it was going through all these different, you know, sort of like frequencies, and it was for meditation, you know. Because people look at me that probably don't think I meditate, that, you know, sort of like, oh, it looks a bit rough, or, you know, like, you know, sort of like always in black with a leather jacket or whatever. So I'm not you know what I mean? People automatically think that I ain't going to be meditating. I'm not going to be, you know, sort of like spiritual in any way, shape or form. You know, sort of like, it's their mistake. You know, anyway. So I'm talking to a friend, and I'd bust my knee. And we were talking, and he says, I can do some acupuncture, you know, sort of like on your knee. And he says, you know, like, there's a few rules. You don't take any drugs at all, and you don't take any drink, you know, before you have this. And I don't take drugs, and I didn't drink. My mates used to. I never really went into drinking, you know. So I said, yeah, okay. So I've got a bigger and faster scooter by this time, because I'd been busy with other things. So anyway, what happens is that I made arrangements to go see him and his wife. I'd never met his wife before, and what have you, you know, and they lived at this area. Funnily enough, it was just opposite Druid's altar. His house, the window, you can see Druid's altar right forward in front of his house. I couldn't believe it when I got there. So I parked the scooter up, and I'd gone over, and on my way there, something happened just before I parked my scooter. As I were riding, before you get onto his little estate sort of thing, I'd seen this thing, and it walked at the side of this big oak tree. I'm saying oak tree. I think it were an oak tree anyway. A big tree, you know. And it looked like a spaceman. But it was as tall as the tree.
Wow.
Right? I'm thinking myself. So I'm slowing down and look behind me, pulled over to the side of the road. And I'm thinking myself, and I'd lost sight of it when I pulled over, but I could just see it just before, you know, sort of like I looked behind me. So, you know, quite aware of traffic and what have you. And it went behind this tree. So I thought, right. So I looked, came back from the side and back on the road, and just went down the road a little way, and I couldn't see it now. So I turned right, and I went, like I said, and parked outside my friend's, this chap that I'd met, his house. Walks up, and I'm knocking on the door, and there's a bell, so I'm ringing the bell as well, sort of thing. And he comes, and he, all right, Russ. And I said, all right. And I goes, yeah. I said, you won't believe this. I says, I've just seen someone. I said, it was like a giant spaceman walk up there. I said, behind, you know, those trees, that tree. And he gives it, oh, yeah. He says, oh, yeah, come in, Russ. He said, we get a lot of that round here, all strange things. Come in. He says, I'll put kettle on, you know, make you a coffee. And I'm like, you know.
He seemed very nonchalant about the whole thing.
Like it's normal, like a normal day.
Yeah, so anyway, I goes in, and he's telling me about he'd seen UFOs, he'd seen lights over there, you know, sort of like, and he introduced me to an old man who'd been looking at this subject. I only met him once because, you know, like you were older and sort of like, and when you're younger, you're doing other things and training and what have you. And I wasn't really into the subject, if you see what I mean. I were into scooters now, and sort of like, you know, like what goes with scooters, music and what have you, you know. And I was doing a bit of training. So anyway, I had me, what do you call it first? Me acupuncture on my knee, and then we had a coffee, and then we were talking about all this after I'd had the acupuncture, you know. And he says it's like a medicine. The more you have, the better it is. But give it, you know, like a few weeks, and I'll, you know, come. And they were doing this free of charge for me. So wow, it's unbelievable. Felt great. So it came. I thought, right, I looked at the time, and I better get home, right? Yeah, because I know what time it is. And I thought to myself, right then, I'm gonna go from his house. I'm gonna go the opposite direction, right? And so I went the opposite. I thought I ain't going to be going that way, and especially after seeing, you know, this spaceman. So I went the opposite direction, and there'd been this new bypass built. So we're going down there, you know, sort of like cracking on, and you know, like you do, you know, like fast, well, as fast as I could go, and what have you, and you know, no police watching you speeding and all that sort of thing. Now, you know, sort of like. You know, sort of like chasing after you because you said something to somebody on Facebook, or you know what I mean, sort of thing, or you know, you're just going a little bit fast. You know, none of that. Then helicopters want we, you know, like gunships ready for you for saying a naughty word, or for, you know, like having a different opinion on Facebook and what have you. So I'm going down, and bloody hell, no, it's there again, and now I'm going fast. You know, sort of like, and I'm going a little bit. I'm sure it was that time, and I was going a little bit fast, and I went. I think I sort of like, you know, like ended up again. I'm still sort of like in this room, and I'm going through the same procedures again, and what have you. And late in, where have you been? You know, late again, and what have you. So the same thing. So I'd been at my friends. So that again, the same things happened. I'm going through all this, you know, technology and what have you, and, you know, interfacing with this helmet. So I'd not been to his house for a few weeks, and he'd invited. I'd seen him, and he said, "Come over, I'll do some more," you know, sort of. And you know, I'm telling him, I'm a bit wary coming over there because, you know, this is happening. And so he says, "Well, yeah." He said, "Well, obviously, you know, they're like watching you. Have they hurt you?" And I said, "Well, back at neck." I said, "That hurts." You know what I mean? I said, "And I'm absolutely petrified." He said, "Well, they're not actually harming you, are they?" And I'm saying, "Well, yeah, you know, sort of like." So I goes over to his house, and you know, like again, and we'd had the acupuncture, and we're talking to him and his wife, lovely lady, and what have you, about all this. And so I was saying, you know, he said, "Well, you know, like every time I go this way, this happens. We'll go another way." I said, "I went the other way last time we were at your house." I says, "And same thing happened." He says, "Well, no matter where you're going to go," he says, they're gonna find a way to get you." He said, "By the sounds of it," he says, "you know, they're sort of like watching you, you know." So again, on my way home, he said bye and what have you, you know, sort of like comes again this tunnel there. So I'm sat in the chair again. I'm thinking, not again, injection in the neck. This time things have changed, right? Yeah, this time things have changed. So now I'm stood in a room with a checkered board floor, and I'm looking at the side of us, and sort of like, you know, there's a row of people, like mostly males, and I'm thinking to myself, where's my clothes gone? You know, so where's my clothes gone? Now I'm feeling like this mist all on me. you know, like on my face, all on me, you know. And then we sort of like, well, I'm feeling like dried then. It's like as if we're all wet, and then now I'm dry. This heat, like a blower, but I didn't feel it as such. And so what happens next then is this wall comes right up from nowhere, and it's a massive room again. And this thing comes down like a sluice, and these things come down at the same time, and we're told to drink. And so we're drinking this stuff, and all of a sudden we start being sick. We're told to drink again, and drink again. So, you know, like drinking, and sort of like, then this other stuff, because there's like two chills, and basically, you know, sick again, and sort of like drink again. And I'm thinking, you know, what the hell's going on here? So drinking this, and then basically being sick again, and then all of a sudden everybody's in the same position being sick in this like sluice, right? So when everybody stopped being sick and what have you, and sort of like I'm looking thinking to myself, you know, sluice goes up, these tubes go up, and the wall goes back. Now again there's all this like mist around us, and now we're getting dried again. Wall comes forward, and there's lockers now in front of us. Told to open the locker. There's a uniform inside, white, like very thin, like a lace curtain, and puts it on. It more or less zips up itself, more or less. And there's two dials, and sort of like so. Top dial, and it's you turn the top dial, and the suit tightens, and it goes from white, yellow, dark yellow, green, dark green, blue to black. And we're told to put this helmet on, and we're told never touch the rifle without putting the helmet on. Pick the rifle up, we're told put the magazines at the side of these clips, and one goes in the middle of the weapon sort of thing, and it looks like an M16, like a magazine where an M16 magazine would go. But this has got a power band knob at the side, 1 to like 10, and that is a sound weapon. If you use a sound weapon without the helmet being on, it'll burst your eardrums. And I know for certain because my helmet was once half on, half off. When we had this altercation, a weapon went off and I got shot in the back. But I heard the sound because I was asking about communications. I'm saying, can't you hear me? I'm talking to you, you know, sort of HQ, can't hear what I'm saying. And I'm saying that we've got an enemy positioned, and that there's nobody putting up information on the screen or communicating with us. I'm saying there's an enemy to the left. And basically, things went wrong on that mission. And like I say, a weapon was fired, and from my own team, and it bust my ear. It bust my eardrum because it were half on, half off. And I still have a problem now with it. So what happens is that in this room, we're told to turn to the left. And from the floor, these tube-like objects come up like pillars, and there's crystal balls on top. And when they come up, you can see the power going up them. So this, both of these crystal balls, and when it's powered up, the tubes, the pillars, tubes go back down, and these things are hovering like crystal balls, one at each side. That must be happening in front of me to the line, right here, to the rest of the unit in front of me. And what happens, you put you cup your hands over each one, and then you're taken straight out, zapped like that, and you're in a different place. And it's telling you when you land, it tells you where you are, your enemy, and it tells you you're taking orders from unit leader in front. So we're at the side, and we're told to, like, get down, there's enemy. It shows you the enemy. Now, I didn't realize at the time, but this, the one of these dragon type creatures, and these like Slavic like looking in like this bluey uniform, and it was like this were an exercise. I didn't know. I thought it were real. So the first time were like an exercise. I was absolutely, your heart's going, panic stricken. So as you can see, well, this is later on actually, but that's the uniform. Those are the weapons. But at this time, we don't have the actual helmets on. This was later when we'd had implants in his ears and his nose and his eyes. So that was like the first battle, even though it was a simulation. It felt an exercise, call it if you will. It was like, wow, just unbelievable.
So they were essentially forcing you to fight for them.
Oh hell yeah! I never said I wanted to. Not until I used to do martial arts training. I wasn't doing it to fight. We're doing it because I'd been bullied younger when I was younger and what have you, and sort of like defending myself and having a laugh, sort of like training and a great time, and sort of like, and I'd always been into shooting. I had target rifles and what have you. So I were in a gun club, so I knew a lot of, so we did basic training. We did police patrols and what have you with pistols. And I was never that good, to be honest. You know what I mean? I was never that good. I'm thinking, just hit him with a truncheon, so I go away, sort of like, So, no, but I don't know why they chose me. I said, I'm not military, I'm not regular army, I'm not even territorial army.
Well, maybe that's right.
Maybe they know something in your body knows what you can withstand the tube and the mask being on, and maybe there's something like that they know that's in your makeup of your DNA or something.
Well, I don't know. I'm pretty much soft, and I would sort of like, you driving a tube ram down your gob and your throat, you know what I mean? And sort of like, it's bad enough going to a dentist without that, you know what I mean? Especially when it's something like 15 foot tall, it looks like, and I used to love watching, horror films and stuff. I think I stopped watching them at that age, you know what I mean? I'm thinking to myself,
Too close for comfort, huh?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah,
So every time that this happened, it was always a training mission. You're like,
every time there any live campaigns.
That was the first. I thought it were real. They never told us it were training. That was the first time. And the thing is, they must have captured these like dragons. Some people call them dragos. There's other ones that look like more like reptiles. These look like dragons, sort of like half man. That like later on we came across, like other like races, like that were half bull, like that. And that's somebody that's their allies working alongside them, And then we've got that again. Something looked very similar to an horse, and then we had this type. Is it that one? Where is it now? That type, sort of like. So, and that's just some, So we're talking about with alien greys, tall blue aliens. Now they're working alongside Orientals. And their technology is unbelievable. I told somebody about this on a radio about 3 years ago. And you see, the thing is, when we're taken and we actually go into to a mission, and I was saying that's how we travel. It's like teleportation. Now, the bottom on his uniform, his life suit, there's a button and a knob at the bottom, and you press that in, and you can turn it. You can press it in and leave it pressed in, and let the button come back out. You can actually walk through solid objects. It's goose. It's get out of easy, right? Yeah. So it's like if you've got in a situation and you're in trouble, and your unit or the other regiment, you know, sort of like, or regiments can't get to you, because I'm in a what you call a scout patrol unit, which are telepaths, right? Yeah, so we're telepathic scout patrol. So we go in first. So this is a failsafe to get you out if you get overrun. So you disappear. In essence, you disappear, but it leaves a trace, a little bit of a trace, and it looks like shadow people. We become a shadow person, right? Yeah, unless we go through that solid object so they can't see us.
So like phasing, you're phasing through the door.
Exactly. So before we sort of like dematerialize, you know, through that wall, they might see us and they might say, "Oh, look, they've gone through a wall," and they know, because obviously they're sort of like the enemy, and they know our technology. They've got the same technology, apart from a bit worried because theirs was sort of like, you know, like getting really, as far as I said to one of the patrol, you know, one of the unit leaders, I said, you know, like, this is not good. I says, you know, like, now, one of the things is the women, because there's women that are actually guards on the planet looking after this alien race, and at the other bases and different planets, what they have, underground bases, and they look after them for the simple reason they choose the women, and most are from this this planet, is because the women are telepaths, and they can tell they're going to appear from like their teleportation system half an hour before they actually turn up. They can tell. Some can half an hour before, the seasoned ones can, and they're really sought after. Some of the others, it might be 5 minutes before, but it's that 5 minutes, yeah, that keeps them alive, and it makes sure that the guards, you know, sort of like ready to defend and attack them before they actually get into the area, if you see what I mean. So they're really chosen. Those women are really chosen from our planet.
Wow. So you said right around 60 times this has happened.
Around about 60 times, yeah. I mean, sort of like it's lifelong. It's happened since 16 that I remember. There's other things as well. Like it hasn't been where I've gone down a tunnel. There's other times when I've, like, for instance, going home one evening, I'd been to see somebody about some work on me chopper, and this person didn't turn up at this pub and what have you. No, I haven't been drinking. I think I had something like a pint of Coke, and I used to smoke roll-ups. And this guy wasn't in. They said he might be, wasn't. Went you know, like back home and what have you, because work in the morning. And what happened this time, a little bit different. On my way home, I came across, there were red lights coming down, and there was what you would call, what do you call it? You know, a train, a level crossing, a train crossing, level crossing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I slowed down and stopped at this level crossing. And the next thing, there's like light all around me, and I could feel heat on back of my neck and my face and my hands. And I looked around thinking it were a truck really close behind me, thinking, you know, like, not happy, you know, like, but there was nothing. Either side of me, there is nothing. So the next thing, I looked at my petrol tank and I thought, that light shining down from up, and I looked, and the next thing, I was floating. And then I'm back on my bike. the light's gone out, apart from there's these three like red lights going up. And I'm thinking, oh, it's barriers. You know, red lights on barriers. The thing is, I could not remember. When I'm thinking, oh, there's a train gone past, and I'm thinking about this train going past. I thought to myself, I didn't see a train. Where? What train? You know. And I thought I'd saw it, but I thought to myself, no, I don't want a train. What it? And I looked behind me, and I'm thinking, I better move because I'm sat here in the middle of the road. So I set off on my journey home. And on the way home, I came across this ball, like a ball of light. And as it got closer, and I was following, well, it was following me, actually. And it was keeping in line. And I came to this area where we used to go trail bike riding. And what happened, basically, it come across so close at the side of us. And I'm looking, and I was going pretty fast. And it were in side by side. And all of a sudden, it were in front. And then it shot in front of me. And I slowed down a bit. I thought, hey, you know, unexpected for it to do that. And it took off. And there's a bloke travelling in the opposite direction in a car, and I'm slowing down and saying, did you see that, pointing at this bloke? And he's just like this bald bloke, glasses, and sort of like, you know, and I'm pointing, and he just goes past. I'm thinking to myself, what? So I pulled over, and I sat down on my motorbike, and I'm watching the silver ball of light. It was as big as a truck, as big as, say, a truck. Like a Ford Bedford van or something, or bigger than a Range Rover, you know, a Range Rover, a bit bigger than that, like round, like silver, like a ball, you know. And so I'm sat now smoking, watching it go in the, you know, the opposite direction over there. So I put my cig out and what have you, you know, sort of like, and set off, and I thought I better move it because you know, sort of like work. Not thinking, I'm thinking all this has stopped. Different thing altogether. There's, you know, like no tunnel. And, you know, sort of like gets in, and there's my dog and what have you, sort of like let her out and what have you. I'm going to make a coffee, put kettle on. And I looked at the time and I thought, what? No way. And it's 2:00. And I set off, it must have been around about 10:30, closing time. The guy hadn't turned up, I'd set off. It should have only taken me 11:00. Maybe 11:15. Right, yeah? So the next morning, I'm woken up by my mum shouting, Russ Kellett, she gives it. You know, you want to get in at a more reasonable hour, she said, again, out till all hours, she said. I don't know what you do, she says. You don't drink, she says. You know, you want to get in, she says, and you're going to be late for work. Door slammed and she were off, you know. And I thought, oh, heck. So I got up and sort of like, my dog were messing about, let her out and what have you. Let her back in. On my bike now, goes to work. And walked through the door, and just taken like me helmet off, like, and one of the women, I work with 150 women, and one of the women came up to us, and she says, "Have you seen your face?" I says, "Yeah, have you seen yours?" And she says, "No, I'm not joking." I said, "I'm not joking. Go away." You know what I mean? Come here, Russ. She says, "Have you overdone it on sunbed?" So what are you talking about, overdone it? Get away. You know what I mean? And so she said, I'm telling you, she said, you look like you've, you know, been under sunbed for too long and you've been left. Have a look in your mirror in your office. So I'm thinking to myself, looks in, where my half-face helmet was. I've still got problems now, you know, sort of like, you know, I think I need some moisturizer on. You know what I mean? It's like, but seriously, you know, I still have the problems, you know, now. And sort of like, so, yeah, you know, sort of like she were right. And back in my neck, all my hands. And not long after, basically, I was ill. About 2 or 3 days, I started being sick. My face was peeling. It came my skin peeled off, and basically I had to go see a doctor, and I had to go see a specialist, for skin complaints. They had no idea what it was. And I've got all my record in my book. In my book, it sounds bad, doesn't it? But it even shows you in my medical files. It says my doctor in my notes. It says Mr. Kellett is in a UFO group. Why would you put that? I mean, the thing is, I was well known because this is back in late 90s, because I were on TV in the newspapers. I'm not just sort of like somebody talking about, I was talking about super soldiers before there were even a terminology super soldier. But I was told not to talk about it. I was not, I used to send information, and I had the editor of a magazine come and get information from me, and I'd send videos to them. And I were always doing stuff in their magazine features. And my dad said, ask him, he says, how comes you're not talking about this subject at their conferences? And so I asked him, and I said, yeah, I said, something was brought up. I says, can't have you talking about, can't have you talk. He says, it don't sell magazines, any of this. He says, aliens and guns and oh, no. You know, you sound like that bloke talking about conspiracies. And I'm saying, so anyway, it'd gone. My dad were there, my sister, my mum, and all heard this. My dad told me, he said, I'd drop him like an hot brick, he says. He says, you know, too much like, he says, that magazine, it's UFOs, he says, and you're talking about this. And he says, don't make any sense, lad. He said, I'm telling you. And it's true. Never spoke at any of the conferences. There's a bigger story as well. There's a bigger story about a video I filmed. Basically poo-pooed it and saying that it was an hang glider. I saw this. My friend saw it. He passed away, did my friend Tony. And I filmed on me. If you have a look on UFO Paranormal TV, you can see the video of this object. Everybody calls it the flying man or ejector seat.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see it coming down. The next day, I went to the same area, right, yeah, and looking for it. I had missing time that night as well. And what happened was that the next day I took a photograph, and there was a flying triangle in the sky. I took a photograph, and you can see a flying triangle in the sky. But as usual, sort of like massive problems. Somebody hacked my computer, getting back on my feet again, you know, problems, and then somebody will hack it again, and then, you know, sort of like, so it's a never-ending battle. But anyway, I'm still here. I'm still trying to let people know. I'm not saying, look at me, you know, I'm a super soldier. It's great. And it's not. You know what I mean? It's not. It's the most terrifying thing that I've ever had. It's sort of like it caused problems with friends and what have you. People sometimes didn't want to talk to me. You know, like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, keep away from him. You know, sort of, he sees aliens. Yeah, I do see him. Yeah. And I see, you know, craft as well. And I film them. What do you do? You know? How many other abductees, contactees do you know are out and they can film these things like that and just come to them?
Right.
It's all there. I've got loads of, in fact, I've thrown better videos away than some people at, you know, put up and sort of like, oh, best video evidence ever. You know, ooh, wow, good for you.
So you said it's slowed down over the last few years. So prior to that, how many times a year do you think it would happen versus as it slowed down?
Well, if you look at reality, and, you know, sort of like, it must have been going on sort of like at least 5 times a year or so. You know, I mean, the thing is, I'm just going brief over stuff, and I've missed a lot out. There's all, you know, the different aliens. that that we've come up against and had battles with and lost casualties and what have you. There's my memory as well, basically being swiped, right? Yeah, that happened. My dad had to take me to hospital one Sunday morning. He'd come in and brought newspapers. I'd been up late, came down. He brought newspapers in. He put them on here. I said to him, John, tea, I'll make you a tea. He says, yes. I'm just looking at this newspaper and I'm just looking at it and I'm reading and I'm just, and all of a sudden, it's not making any sense. The words are not making any sense. I mean, I'm dyslexic to start off with, but, sort of like this was like, I just can't explain. What happened was I just could not speak. And I could feel something being taken out of me out of my brain, right? My dad came in. He says, "Did you make that tea, Russ?" And I just sat there. And basically, I were in a mess. I couldn't talk really, and sort of like I just no. And I would try to tell him, and it came out all, not even back to front. It came out gobbledygook all over the place. And he says, like later on, my face, I was grey. I looked really ill. And, he said that he knew there was something wrong. So he shouted at my mum, Reet. He says, there's something wrong with our Russ. He says, I'm going to have to take him to hospital. What? And so he took me to hospital. Cut a long story short, gets there. They're keeping an eye on me. They're going for CAT scans and what have you, brain scans and what have you. And so they said, we're going to have to leave him here. It don't look good. It really didn't look good. If it were one of 5 things, I was going to probably not walk out of that building again. Brings me mum over and what have you. When they got over, I'd been transferred to a different hospital. I were in an isolation unit now, next door in a different hospital. I had a window and I couldn't see anybody. So, I could not be bothered. I'd lost my hearing, my sight, I were a mess. So 3 days later, I'm coming round now and they said I could go home. Could not figure out what had happened to me. Could not figure out what it was. They said it. Sorry?
Oh, I was just like, dang, that's crazy.
They said it may have been something like a certain migraine attack. It wasn't a seizure. It could have been some kind of migraine attack where it's like a stroke, But yeah, sort of like, so I'm there, like, and I don't know who people are. You know what I'm saying? It's like my memory. It's like I know that later on it came back. Well, it came back when I wanted it to. Like we wanted to with girlfriends and what have you. I remember doing that. I don't know. You know what I mean, sort of thing. But yeah, so
Well, where can everybody find your book and your videos on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, on UFO Paranormal TV on YouTube. It's on my Facebook. I put stuff up on Facebook. Again, we have a group which I've been told we can't. Yardstream won't go to my group or something. You don't get any comments. I don't know why. I've had problems. But you can get my book, which is that's the E.T. Rider, Amazon. And that was the first book, obviously that's me. And there's pictures in again, sort of like of like these creatures and what have you. There's some of me on my bike and what have you. Druid's Altar, which plays a big part. And then there's my second book, which is about 30 years investigating a UFO landings in Wales, UK's answer to Roswell. The Berwyn Mountains incident, very controversial. It's called Alien Invasion Wales.
I think that sounds like a good part too when you come back.
Yeah, that's. I'll show you that. Hang on. Again, that's me at the site of the UFO landing, and that's the ones that the usual suspects. As you can see, wearing Sam Brown, battle, sort of like belt and what have you, and carrying weapons, what look like weapons. I've got all the statements in here from MOD. I've got them from witnesses. I had to get all the names scrubbed out and what have you. That's a piece of metal I was given that from the crash, from a crash site around there. This is from Coast Guards, because very controversial about, that's a letter I got sent to me at a friend's house, because I was away somebody was really seriously ill in my family. They died. So somebody in my group, I let him run my group and what have you, and getting letters from all the places that I wrote to. I was told by these men, these group of 5 men that saw the aliens on the night, and were told to leave the area. There were army there, and they told them, leave this area. They told us, this is only for you. This information's only for you. Sort of like, your friend, we trust him, we don't know anybody else. So apparently there was depth charging out in the Irish Sea, and they were depth charging, and they brought these flying saucers out and they attacked them, and there was basically a battle out to sea, and it came inland, and then jet fighters followed them, and it's all in the book.
Man, I'm gonna have to check that out.
And that's Berwyn Mountains, and that's in Welsh, the Welsh people's language, and it means the same thing, and it's Alien Invasion Wales.
Wild.
Yeah.
It is the Russ Kellett UFO footage channel on YouTube? Is that you?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Trying to get it to share here.
There's all sorts. There's Flying Man. There's all sorts of things, that's up there.
So I put it in the chat for anybody who's looking for a direct link. You can find several videos of objects in the sky, looks like, and then some interviews with local counselors and
oh yeah, that's my friend. She did an interview with one of his unbelievable story. He don't say he's been abducted, but it's obvious. His friend said in a boat what they were fishing in, they took them. He pointed. He said they took us. Amazing.
Yeah, so you can look for that on Russ's YouTube channel and the other documents and his book and the other videos as well. Russ, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on our show. And for everybody out there, we've already talked about where they can find you, but look for Russ on Facebook, look for his YouTube channel, and find his book on Amazon. Pick it up. He's got a lot of experience to share. For our part, if you like the show, comment, like, subscribe. We'd love to continue sharing people's stories with you.
Yeah.
And until next time, keep on exploring the edges of the unknown.